Welcome to Yakutia, Siberia. This is the coldest inhabited place on Earth. Here, the landscape stretches endlessly, a white desert where the wind howls like a living thing, and every step forward is a battle against the elements. The temperatures here can plummet to unimaginable lows, reaching -70 degrees Celsius and beyond. Imagine air so cold it feels like sharp needles against your skin, each breath a test of endurance. In this place, a single breath can freeze your lungs solid if you're not careful, the air itself turning hostile, biting at any exposed skin. This isn't just winter, it's a relentless, unending siege of cold, where the world is locked in a permanent state of deep freeze. The ground beneath your feet is permafrost. Soil, rock, and ice fused together, never thawing, never yielding, a foundation as hard as iron. Building anything here is a monumental challenge, a constant struggle against nature's raw power. Every nail driven, every log placed, is a victory over the cold. Life in Yakutia is a testament to human resilience, a daily demonstration of grit and determination. The people who call this place home are among the toughest on the planet, their faces weathered by years of biting wind and stinging snow. Over generations, they have learned the secrets of the ice, passing down knowledge of survival, the art of reading the snow, and the rhythms of the unforgiving seasons. Every day is a negotiation with the cold. Chores that seem simple elsewhere, chopping wood, hauling water, become feats of endurance here. Fetching water means breaking through thick ice, and starting a vehicle requires careful rituals to coax engines to life in the bitter cold. Simple mistakes can have deadly consequences. A moment's carelessness can lead to frostbite or worse. Forget your gloves for even a minute, and the cold will punish you without mercy, turning your hands numb and red, then white with frostbite. Here, nature is always in charge. You are a guest, dwarfed by the endless white, at the mercy of blizzards that can swallow a man whole. For families like the Volkovs, Mikhail and his teenage son Dmitry, this land is both their prison and their sanctuary, a place where every day is a test of willpower and ingenuity. They live in a small, isolated outpost, a cluster of sturdy wooden cabins built to withstand the crushing weight of the snow and the piercing cold. Their connection to the outside world is tenuous, often severed for months at a time by impassable snowdrifts and frozen rivers. They rely on ancient knowledge passed down through their ancestors, combined with a few modern tools, to carve out a life on this frozen edge of the world. Their survival depends on their strength, their wits, and most importantly, their bond as a family, each member playing a vital role in the daily fight against the cold. Today is a special day, but not for celebration. The air is tense, the silence inside the cabin as heavy as the snow outside. The mercury in their specially designed thermometer has dropped to a level rarely seen, even here. It reads -71 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the world changes. The landscape itself seems to freeze in time, every sound muffled, every movement slowed. Metal becomes brittle and can shatter like glass. Tools and equipment must be handled with care, or they'll break in your hands. Boiling water thrown into the air instantly vaporizes into a cloud of ice crystals, a fleeting spectacle of science and survival. The very air seems to thicken, and a strange, ethereal silence descends upon the land, as if the world itself is holding its breath. It's a silence that is both beautiful and terrifying, for it means that every living thing is hunkering down, fighting for its life against the apathetic, crushing power of the cold. In the dim, blue hours, before the sun's weak glow creeps above the horizon, the world outside is a frozen expanse of silence and biting wind. The air is so cold it feels sharp, each breath stinging the lungs and frosting eyelashes in seconds. Inside the Volkov family's log cabin, The day begins long before the sun's rays reach the snowdrifts. The walls creak with the cold, and the only warmth comes from the iron stove at the center of the room. Outside, the wind howls relentlessly, driving snow into every crack and crevice. The landscape is a sea of white, broken only by the dark outline of the cabin and the distant shapes of reindeer huddled against the cold. Mikhail, the father, is always the first to rise. His first task is a matter of life and death, stoking the massive iron stove that is the heart of their home. Without it, the temperature inside would plummet to match the deadly cold outside. He selects only the driest wood, stacking it with practiced precision. The fire must be coaxed to life slowly, ensuring it burns hot and clean, wasting nothing. Even a small mistake could fill the cabin with smoke or leave it dangerously cold. The air inside is so frigid that every breath hangs in the air as a cloud of frost. The thermometer, nailed to the wall, often reads well below freezing even indoors. Letting the fire die is unthinkable. It would mean a slow, creeping chill that seeps into the bones. Mikhail moves to the kitchen area, his breath still visible as he prepares the day's first meal. Every movement is deliberate, conserving energy and warmth. Food is a precious resource. Every scrap is saved, every morsel carefully stored to prevent spoilage in the harsh cold. Nothing is wasted, for resupply is impossible until the distant spring. Their diet is built on what can be hunted, fished, or preserved. Strips of dried reindeer meat and smoked fish hang in the cold storage, each piece a testament to hours of labor and the constant fight against hunger. Breakfast is a steaming stew, thick with dried reindeer meat and preserved root vegetables. The meal is dense with calories, essential for surviving the relentless drain of the cold. The family eats close to the stove, savoring the warmth and energy the food provides. Every bite is fuel for the day's endless tasks. Chopping frozen meat is a test of strength and patience. The blade must be sharp, the blows precise, as the meat is as hard as stone in the sub-zero air. Water is made by melting blocks of ice, chipped from the river and hauled inside. The process is slow, demanding constant attention to keep the pot from freezing solid again. Every chore is performed with slow, deliberate movements. The cold saps strength and speed, and even the simplest task becomes a challenge when fingers are numb and stiff. Dmitri, the teenage son, prepares for his own responsibilities. He layers on heavy boots and thick furs, bracing himself for the cold that waits outside. His first duty is to inspect the cabin's walls and seams, searching for any sign of weakness where the wind might force its way in. Even a small crack can let in enough cold to threaten their survival. He checks the window seals, running gloved fingers along the frosted edges, feeling for drafts that could sap precious heat. Outside, Dmitri climbs onto the roof, shoveling away the heavy snow that piles up overnight. If left unchecked, the weight could collapse the roof, burying them in the cold. He checks on the small herd of reindeer, their breath steaming in the frigid air. These animals are their lifeline, providing both transportation and food. Dmitri ensures the reindeer are secure in their insulated pen, checking the gate and the walls for any sign of weakness. He scatters lichen for them to eat, watching to make sure each animal gets its share. Their health is vital to the family's survival. These routines are not just chores, they are rituals of survival, repeated day after day, in a world where the smallest mistake can be fatal. Securing food is a daily struggle. The men prepare their gear, checking every piece for damage from the cold, knowing that a broken strap or frozen buckle could mean disaster. Hunting in these conditions is perilous. The wind can erase tracks in minutes, and the cold can sap strength and willpower with frightening speed. Mikhail dresses in layer after layer of fur and insulated clothing, each piece essential to keeping the deadly cold at bay. Even so, the threat of frostbite is constant. He checks his hands and face for numbness, knowing that exposed skin can freeze in minutes. His rifle is specially winterized, the mechanism cleaned of oil that would freeze solid in these temperatures. Every tool must be adapted to the cold, or it becomes useless. Fishing is no less demanding. Mikhail drills through meters of ice, the auger biting slowly into the frozen river. The work is exhausting, sweat freezing on his brow. Each turn of the auger is a battle against the elements, the wind threatening to steal away any exposed warmth. At these temperatures, metal can shatter like glass, and breath freezes instantly in the air. Every action is a test of endurance and ingenuity. Every fish pulled from the black water below the ice is a hard-won victory, a small triumph in the daily struggle against the cold and hunger. As the weak, watery sun dips below the horizon, the temperature begins its relentless plunge. The last rays of sunlight scatter across the snow, painting the world in fleeting gold before surrendering to the encroaching blue of dusk. The brief period of day is over, and the long, dark night takes hold. Shadows stretch and merge, swallowing the landscape in a cold, silent embrace. This is when Yakutia reveals its true, unforgiving nature. The temperature drops from an already brutal -50 degrees Celsius to something far more sinister. The air itself seems to crystallize, each breath sharper and more painful than the last. The air grows still and heavy. The silence becomes absolute, broken only by the eerie sound of ice quakes, the cracking of the frozen ground as it contracts in the extreme cold. It's a sound that travels for miles, a reminder of the immense power of the frost. The earth itself seems to groan under the weight of the plunging temperature. Inside the cabin, the Volkov family prepares for the long night ahead. The walls creak as the cold presses in, and every surface radiates a chill that seeps into the bones. They double-check the seals on the doors and windows, stuffing any potential gaps with animal hides and cloth to keep the precious heat from escaping. Each movement is deliberate, a ritual born of necessity and experience. The iron stove is fed continuously, its orange glow a beacon of life in the vast, dark emptiness. The fire's warmth is both a comfort and a lifeline, the only barrier between the family and the deadly cold outside. They gather close, sharing stories and quietly mending clothes or tools. The flicker of candlelight dances across their faces, casting long shadows on the log walls. This time together is not just for comfort, it's a vital part of their survival strategy. It reinforces their bonds, their shared purpose, and their collective will to see another dawn. Every moment is a quiet defiance of the world outside. The psychological weight of the night presses in, and unity becomes their shield. The darkness is absolute. There are no city lights to pollute the sky, only the brilliant cold light of the stars, and on some nights, the shimmering curtain of the aurora borealis. The vastness above is both beautiful and intimidating, a reminder of their isolation. But tonight the sky is overcast, trapping the cold close to the earth. The world outside their small, fortified cabin feels like another planet, hostile and alien. The sense of separation from the rest of humanity grows stronger with every passing hour. The wind begins to pick up, a low moan that slowly builds into a piercing shriek. The sound rattles the windows and stirs a primal unease, as if the night itself is alive and searching. It isn't just wind, it's a river of super-chilled air that scours the landscape, seeking out any weakness, any crack, any chink in their armor. The relentless assault of the elements is both physical and psychological, wearing down even the most resilient. Tonight the forecast is dire. The radio crackles with warnings, and the old paper forecast tacked to the wall is a grim reminder of what's to come. The old thermometer outside, filled with a special alcohol that resists freezing, is creeping towards -70 degrees Celsius. The numbers seem almost unreal, a testament to the extremity of their environment. At this temperature, the environment becomes actively hostile. Exposed skin will freeze in seconds. Even a single careless moment outside could mean disaster. The family knows the dangers. They have lived through such nights before, but each one is a trial. The psychological strain is immense. Every howl of the wind, every creak of the cabin feeds the ever-present anxiety. They huddle closer to the stove, the crackling of the fire a comforting counterpoint to the howling gale outside. The warmth is fleeting, and the cold is always waiting, pressing in from every side. They are a tiny island of warmth and life in an ocean of lethal cold, and the tide is rising. The night is just beginning, and it already feels endless. The psychological battle is as fierce as the physical one, and only their unity and resolve will see them through until the first hint of dawn. It begins as a whisper, barely audible beneath the relentless shriek of the wind. The blizzard's fury drowns out most sounds, but every so often a strange note rides the gusts, something that doesn't belong to the storm. Mikhail sits in the dim light of the cabin, the walls creaking with the force of the gale. At first he pays the sound no mind, dismissing it as another trick of the wind, a phantom echo, a fleeting illusion. In Yakutia, the wind is a master of deception. It can twist and warp the world outside, making the tundra seem alive with voices, sometimes animal, sometimes eerily human. But then the sound returns, sharper, closer, unmistakable. Mikhail freezes, his breath catching as he listens. It's a howl, long and mournful, cutting through the storm like a blade. Not a solitary voice, but a gathering, a chorus swelling in the darkness, each note layered atop the last until the air itself seems to vibrate with their presence. The howls are deep, guttural, and relentless, rising and falling in a chilling, unnatural harmony. The sound is both beautiful and terrifying, a wild symphony echoing across the frozen expanse. The men in the cabin fall silent, every sense straining. The storm outside is no longer the only threat. Eyes meet in the flickering shadows, silent questions passing between them. The tension is thick, the air heavy with anticipation and dread. This is no ordinary wolf call. The sound is too organized, too purposeful. It's the voice of a pack, hungry, desperate, and united by a single intent. Outside, the wolves move with a predatory grace, their bodies low and tense, eyes burning with hunger. The snow muffles their steps, but their presence is unmistakable, a force of nature closing in. The cold itself feels alive, a second predator stalking the night. At -71 degrees Celsius, even the air bites with a ferocity that can kill. The wolves' usual prey, reindeer, moose, and other creatures, have either perished or fled to distant, sheltered valleys. The land is empty, save for the hunters and the hunted. Driven by starvation, the wolves are restless, their eyes wild with need. The storm has made them bold, stripping away the last of their caution. These are not ordinary wolves. Snow wolves, larger, stronger, and more cunning than their southern kin, move as one, a living shadow in the blizzard. The scent of the reindeer, the faint warmth leaking from the cabin's seams, these are beacons in the frozen dark, calling the predators ever closer. The wolves are not wandering. They are converging, drawn by hunger and the promise of life inside the fragile wooden walls. Mikhail moves to the door, his face set and determined. He presses his ear to the thick wood, every muscle taut, listening for the sounds that the storm tries to hide. The howling is everywhere now, a wall of sound that presses in from all sides. It is a symphony of hunger, a promise of violence waiting just beyond the threshold. The pack circles the cabin, their bodies weaving through the swirling snow, noses pressed to the ground, searching for any weakness, any crack in the defenses. Mikhail hears the crunch of paws on the brittle snow, the sound so close it seems to echo inside his chest. Each step is a reminder of how thin the barrier is between safety and chaos. He reaches for his heavy-caliber rifle, hands steady despite the tension. Every movement is measured, deliberate. There is no room for panic. In this place, fear is a luxury. Calm is survival. He checks the rifle's action, the metallic click sharp in the cold air. His breath hangs in the frigid cabin, a ghostly mist that vanishes almost as soon as it appears. "Dmitri, get the other rifle," Mikhail says, his voice low and steady, eyes never leaving the door. The younger man nods, moving with silent urgency. The fire is stoked higher, logs thrown on with quick, practiced hands. The windows are barred, every latch checked and double-checked. The men move as one, each knowing his role. There is no need for words. The threat outside has made them a single, focused unit. They have faced danger before, but never like this. The sheer number of wolves, the relentless chorus, makes the night feel endless and the odds overwhelming. It is a siege in every sense, a test of endurance, courage, and will. The warmth of the cabin is now a fragile shield, the only thing standing between the men and the wild. Outside the wolves wait, their howls a grim promise that the night is far from over. The first direct assault comes not at the door, but from above. The night is thick with snow, the sky a swirling mass of white and shadow, and the only light comes from the faint glow of the moon behind the storm clouds. Suddenly, a heavy thud shakes the cabin, sending a cascade of snow tumbling from the roof. The impact reverberates through the timbers, a jarring reminder of the danger lurking just overhead. The sound of claws raking across the wooden shingles is unmistakable, sharp, insistent, and relentless. Each scrape is amplified by the cold, brittle air echoing through the cramped interior. Above, dark shapes move with predatory purpose. The wolves are on the roof, their bodies outlined against the storm, their eyes glinting with hunger and cunning. Mikhail's mind races as he realizes their strategy. The pack is using the deep wind-packed snowdrifts as a ramp, surging up the side of the cabin with terrifying ease. These are not ordinary wolves. They are intelligent, coordinated, and driven by a desperate hunger that makes them bold beyond reason. Another impact, then another, each one heavier, more urgent. The roof trembles under the repeated blows, snow sifting down through the rafters. The weight of several massive animals presses down, causing the old beams to groan and creak. The wolves are relentless, their bodies shifting and pacing above, searching for weakness. With savage determination, they begin to tear at the snow and wood, their jaws snapping, their claws gouging deep into the structure. The threat is immediate and overwhelming. Inside, the air is thick with tension. Every sound from above is magnified, each vibration a warning that the barrier between man and beast is growing thinner by the second. The roof, built to withstand the crushing weight of Siberian snow, was never meant to resist the fury of several hundred-pound predators working in concert. The scratching intensifies, becoming a frantic, fevered assault. Low, guttural growls vibrate through the wood, a chilling reminder of the predator's proximity. Mikhail's hands tighten around his rifle. He knows that waiting is not an option. The wolves will not stop until they are inside. He signals to Dmitri. They must act now, or all will be lost to the storm and the fangs outside. Mikhail points to the small attic hatch above. The only way to confront the threat is to meet it head-on. "Dmitri, with me! We're going up!" he commands, voice steady despite the fear. Climbing onto the roof in a blizzard at minus 71 degrees Celsius is a death sentence under any other circumstances. The wind howls like a living thing, and the cold bites through even the thickest layers. The blizzard is a force of nature, its winds capable of tearing a man from his footing, its chill numbing flesh and bone in moments. But this is no ordinary night, and these are no ordinary men. The storm outside is matched only by the storm of survival raging within. Mikhail and Dmitri pull on their thickest fur hats and gloves, faces set and eyes hard. Every movement is deliberate, every second precious. Survival demands that they face the storm and the beasts that prowl within it, no matter the odds. With a deep breath, Mikhail unbolts the attic hatch and pushes it open, bracing himself for what lies beyond. Instantly, a blast of super-chilled air and swirling snow invades the cabin, the temperature plummeting as the blizzard claims the space. The roar of the wind and the wolves outside merges into a single deafening cacophony, a wall of sound that threatens to overwhelm the senses. Mikhail is the first to scramble out, rifle clutched tight, boots sinking into the deep, powdery snow atop the roof. The scene that greets him is a waking nightmare. The blizzard rages, snow swirling in blinding sheets, and the wolves are already upon the roof, their forms shifting and lunging in the storm. 3 enormous snow wolves, their fur matted with ice, eyes glowing with a spectral light, tear at the peak of the roof with savage intent. They are larger than any wolf Mikhail has ever seen, their bodies ghostly and immense in the swirling snow, their presence almost supernatural. "Don't stop, Misha! Higher!" Mikhail urges, voice nearly lost in the wind as he pushes upward, boots slipping on the treacherous ice. Dmitri follows, rifle at the ready, his breath freezing instantly in the frigid air. Together they move as one, bracing against the wind and the threat before them. The wind is a living force, battering them with icy fists, threatening to hurl them from the rooftop into the darkness below. The struggle for survival has reached its most perilous point. Man, beast, and blizzard collide atop the fragile roof, each fighting for dominance in the heart of the storm. On the roof, the battle is primal. The wind howls, carrying with it the scent of blood and fear, swirling snow into blinding sheets that sting exposed skin. Mikhail raises his rifle, the cold metal burning his hands, even through his gloves. His breath clouds the air, each exhale a reminder of the bitter cold that seeps into his bones. He takes aim at the closest wolf, a massive alpha male, and fires. The shot is desperate, echoing across the frozen expanse. The crack of the rifle shot is shockingly loud in the frozen air, but the wolf barely flinches. Its eyes lock with Mikhail's, unafraid, as if it knows the odds are shifting. In this extreme cold, the gunpowder burns differently, and the bullet may have lost some of its velocity. Every shot is a gamble, every second a test of survival. The wolf turns its head, its lips curling back to reveal a terrifying set of teeth. Its breath steams in the air, a living shadow against the white. It lets out a deep, chest-rattling growl and lunges, snow exploding beneath its paws as it closes the distance in a blur of muscle and hunger. Dmitri fires his own rifle, and this time the shot finds its mark, hitting the beast in the shoulder. The wolf yelps, a sharp, guttural sound, and stumbles back, blood staining the snow. It yelps and stumbles back, but there are more. Shadows move in the storm, eyes glinting, bodies weaving through the snowdrifts. While they are distracted on the roof, the rest of the pack renews its assault on the ground floor. The wolves circle, relentless, their bodies pressing against the wooden walls. A loud crack echoes from below, followed by the sound of splintering wood. The cabin shudders, beams groaning under the strain. Inside, chaos erupts. Men shout orders, scrambling to reinforce barricades with whatever they can find. Chairs, crates, even their own bodies pressed against the doors. One of the wolves has managed to break through a window shutter. Its head bursts through, jaws snapping, eyes wild with hunger. The family's primary defense has been breached. Snow and fur spill into the room. The barrier between man and beast shattered. The wolves on the roof, hearing the commotion, redouble their efforts, tearing away chunks of wood and snow. Their claws rake the beams, splinters raining down inside. The entire cabin seems to groan and shudder under the coordinated attack. Cracks snake along the walls, snow swirling through widening gaps. "We have to get down! The house won't hold!" a voice shouts, panic rising as the structure threatens to give way. Mikhail yells over the wind, his voice nearly lost in the roar of the blizzard and the snarls of the wolves. They are trapped between the wolves on the roof and the wolves breaking in below. Every exit is blocked, every window a potential breach. The cabin is no longer a sanctuary, it's a death trap. The air inside is thick with fear, the walls closing in as the pack presses harder. He fires another shot, forcing the wolves on the roof back for a precious few seconds. The animals snarl, retreating just enough to buy a moment's breath. He and Dmitri scramble back towards the hatch, boots slipping on the icy roof, every step a risk of falling into the darkness and the waiting pack below. They tumble back inside, sealing the hatch just as a heavy body slams against it from above. The impact rattles the frame, snow sifting down from the ceiling. They are back inside, but they are far from safe. The room is a tangle of overturned furniture, scattered supplies, and desperate men clutching weapons. They can hear the wolves inside the outer walls, tearing at the insulation, claws scraping, teeth gnashing, trying to break through the main interior wall. The sounds are horrifying, the ripping of hide, the splintering of wood, the guttural snarls of hungry predators just inches away. The men brace themselves, backs to the wall, eyes darting for any sign of weakness in their defences. Panic begins to set in. The air is thick with the scent of sweat and fear, every heartbeat echoing the chaos outside. Their fortress has been breached, and they are running out of options. The men exchange desperate glances, searching for any hope of escape or survival. The stove, their source of life, is now just a dim light in a room filled with the sounds of imminent death. Shadows flicker on the walls, the warmth barely holding back the cold and the terror. Their home, the structure that has protected them their whole lives, is being torn apart around them. The fight to stay alive is no longer just against the cold, but against the relentless, savage force of nature itself. The truck! In this frozen wasteland, it's more than just a vehicle. It's their last hope. We have to get to the truck. The words hang in the air, thick with dread and urgency, as the men steel themselves for the most dangerous sprint of their lives. Mikhail shouts, his voice raw, his mind racing to calculate every risk, every second that could mean the difference between life and death. Their battered Soviet-era truck sits about 30 yards from the cabin, its silhouette barely visible through the swirling snow. It's their only other shelter, their only means of escape from the tightening jaws of the wild. But those 30 yards in this storm, with death lurking in the darkness, might as well be 30 miles. The open field is a gauntlet, and the wolf pack stands between them and salvation, their eyes glinting with hunger in the blizzard. To make a run for it is to gamble everything, to hurl themselves straight into the waiting fangs of the wolves. But the cabin is collapsing, the walls groaning under the weight of snow and time. Staying means certain death. They have to take the chance. There's no other option. Mikhail is already grabbing essential supplies, extra ammunition, a first aid kit, and anything that could buy them a few more precious minutes. He snatches up a small container of fuel for the emergency generator, hands shaking but precise. Every item is a calculated choice, weighed against the seconds it will take to carry and the odds of survival. Dmitri stands by the main door, rifle at the ready, eyes fixed on the splintering wall, every muscle tensed for the first sign of movement. The plan is simple, born of desperation. Mikhail will throw open the door and lay down covering fire, while Dmitri makes the first dash for the truck. Mikhail will create a path through the chaos, his rifle the only shield against the night. Dmitri will run first, his job to clear the way and get the truck started, no matter what. Mikhail will be the last one out, covering their retreat, his finger tight on the trigger, ready to buy every second they need. Ready? Mikhail's eyes lock with Dmitri's, a silent pact passing between them. They nod, faces pale, but set with grim determination. There is no more time for words, only action. Mikhail draws a deep breath of the frigid, smoky air, yanks the heavy bar from the door, and kicks it open with all his strength. The world outside is a nightmare, snow swirling so thick it blinds, wolves circling, their shapes flickering in and out of the storm. The blizzard has grown even fiercer, and at least half a dozen wolves prowl the darkness, their forms barely visible, their intent unmistakable. Mikhail fires 2 quick shots into the night, not to kill but to shock, to buy a heartbeat of confusion. "Go! Now! Run!" he roars, voice nearly lost in the howling wind. Dmitri explodes into the blizzard, legs churning through waist-deep snow, every step a battle against the cold and the terror at his heels. Mikhail follows, clutching the precious supplies, his breath burning in his lungs, the cold biting at every exposed inch of skin. The wolves, startled by the gunfire and the sudden movement, hesitate for a split second, their instincts warring with their hunger. But hunger wins. With a chorus of snarls they surge forward, snow spraying from their paws as they charge. Mikhail spins, firing again, the rifle's report echoing in the storm. One of the lead wolves drops, tumbling into the snow. Dmitri reaches the truck, wrenches the heavy passenger door open and throws himself inside, hands numb and shaking. Mikhail turns and runs, the sound of snapping jaws and pounding paws closing in behind him, the world reduced to the desperate rhythm of his own heartbeat. He hurls himself at the driver's side door, just as a wolf lunges, its teeth scraping the thick fabric of his coat, a fraction of a second from disaster. Mikhail slams the heavy truck door shut, just as a wolf crashes against it, the impact echoing through the frozen night like a gunshot. The metal groans and shudders, trembling beneath the relentless assault, but it holds, unyielding, a barrier between man and beast. Inside, the air is thick with the sharp scent of fear and cold. The men huddle together, breath fogging in the frigid air, hearts pounding as they listen to the wolves circling outside. The cab is a cramped, frozen metal box, its windows rimed with frost. But to them it feels like the strongest fortress ever built. Through the icy windshield, they see the pack, dozens of wolves, their fur bristling, eyes glinting with hunger, snarling and clawing at the tires, leaping against the doors in a frenzy. The truck rocks violently on its suspension, the entire frame shuddering with each impact as the wolves hurl themselves at the steel shell. They are trapped, surrounded on all sides, but for now, they are alive. The wolves cannot breach the steel, but the men know they cannot remain here forever. The cold is relentless, seeping through every seam and rivet, and their fuel is running dangerously low. The fuel! Mikhail's voice is urgent, slicing through the tension. Give me the fuel! His mind races, searching for a solution as the howls grow louder outside. He remembers the can, emergency generator fuel, gasoline, their last hope. The red canister sits in the back, a volatile promise in the frozen dark. An idea, wild and desperate, sparks in Mikhail's mind. A last stand against the night. Fire, the ancient enemy of all wild things. The one force that can turn the tide. He cracks the window, and a blast of Arctic air knifes through the cab, stinging his face and numbing his fingers instantly. "Pour it on the sides! We have to stop them!" Mikhail barks, voice trembling with urgency. He instructs Dmitri, his son, who is crouched in the back of the cab, eyes wide with fear and determination. They must create a barrier, a line of fire the wolves will not dare cross. It's a gamble with everything at stake. Gasoline is dangerous, especially in this cold, and the truck is their only lifeline. Dmitri unscrews the cap with trembling hands, the sharp, acrid smell of gasoline filling the cramped space, mingling with the metallic tang of fear. He passes the can to his father, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. Mikhail leans out the window, his arm exposed to the lethal cold, and pours a shimmering stream of fuel onto the snow, the liquid hissing as it hits the icy ground. He repeats the action on the other side, ensuring both flanks are soaked, the gasoline pooling in dark, glistening lines. The wolves, noses twitching, recoil from the unfamiliar, pungent scent, their confidence wavering for the first time. Now comes the most dangerous moment, the point of no return. Mikhail rips a strip from an old rag, soaks it in the last drops of fuel, and with numb fingers flicks his emergency lighter. The flame sputters, then catches, burning blue and fierce in the cold. He hurls the burning rag out the window. Instantly the gasoline ignites with a thunderous whoosh, a wall of fire leaping up from the snow. Flames roar to life, bright orange and gold, casting wild shadows across the snow. The fire encircles the truck, a living barrier, its heat pushing back the darkness and the wolves alike. The snow hisses and sizzles, steam rising in ghostly tendrils as the fire devours the icy ground, the air shimmering with heat and light. The wolves, eyes wide with terror, yelp and scatter, retreating into the shadows beyond the fire's reach. Their glowing eyes linger, watching, but they dare not approach. The fire forms a protective ring, a moat of flame that no beast will cross, a defiant stand against the wild. Inside the truck the men watch in awe, their faces bathed in the flickering orange glow. the firelight dancing in their eyes. Exhaustion crashes over them, but so does relief. Against all odds, they have survived the night's onslaught. Through courage, quick thinking, and the primal power of fire, they have turned the tide, forcing the wolves to yield, and reclaiming their fragile hold on life in the frozen wild. The fire burns for what feels like an eternity, its heat a welcome but temporary shield against the relentless cold and the ever-present threat of the wolves. In the heart of the Siberian wilderness, every flicker of flame is a testament to human ingenuity and the will to survive. Inside the truck's cab, the family sits in silence, each man lost in his own thoughts, listening to the crackle of the flames and the distant, frustrated howls of the pack. The night is thick with tension, but also with a quiet determination. As the hours pass, they watch the fire slowly die down, the last of the fuel consumed, leaving behind a circle of blackened, steaming snow, a silent reminder of the battle fought and won through the night. The wolves do not return. The forest, once alive with their haunting calls, is now eerily silent, as if nature itself is pausing to acknowledge the resilience of its human challengers. The combination of gunfire, unfamiliar scents, and the terrifying wall of fire was enough to break the resolve of even the most determined predators. The pack, sensing the unyielding spirit of their would-be prey, retreats into the endless night. The wolves melt away into the darkness, seeking easier prey in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. For now, the balance of power has shifted. As the first faint hint of dawn begins to lighten the eastern sky, Mikhail, his hands trembling from cold and exhaustion, turns the key in the ignition. Every man in the cab holds his breath. The old truck's engine groans in protest, the metal stiff from the profound cold, as if the machine itself is reluctant to face another day in this frozen land. For a heart-stopping moment, the engine sputters and fails, the silence heavier than ever. Mikhail tries again, whispering a prayer to the stubborn machine, his breath visible in the frigid air. In this land, faith and perseverance are as vital as fuel and fire. Finally, with a shudder and a roar, the engine catches. Relief floods the cab and the men exchange weary, grateful glances. Diesel smoke billows from the exhaust, a cloud of life in the frozen air, a signal to the world that they have endured another trial. The sound of the engine is the most beautiful sound they have ever heard. It is the promise of movement, of hope, of survival. It means they have survived the night, and with the coming dawn, a new chapter begins. It means they can escape the confines of their battered homestead to seek safety and a future beyond the reach of the wild. They are no longer trapped. The road ahead, though uncertain, is open. They don't look back at their ruined home. The lessons of the night are etched in their memories, but their eyes are fixed on the horizon. There will be time to mourn, to remember, and to rebuild. For now, survival is the only goal. In the days to come, they will return to salvage what they can, to gather the remnants of their lives and begin anew. Every nail, every board, every memory will be reclaimed and repurposed. This is the way of life in Siberia. The land is harsh, but it teaches resilience, resourcefulness, and the value of every hard-won victory. You build, nature tries to tear it down, and you build again. Each cycle makes you stronger, more determined, more attuned to the rhythms of the wild. It is a cycle as old as the land itself, a dance between man and nature that has played out for generations. For now, their only focus is on moving forward, on reaching the next settlement, on finding warmth and the company of others who understand what it means to endure. Mikhail puts the truck in gear, and they slowly pull away, their headlights cutting a path through the receding darkness, each man silently vowing to never take another sunrise for granted. They head towards the nearest settlement, a day's drive away, where the promise of shelter, warmth, and camaraderie awaits. In this land, every survivor is a brother, every hardship a shared story. As the sun climbs higher, casting a pale, golden light over the endless expanse of snow, They reflect not on what they have lost, but on what they have retained, their lives, their unity, and the unbreakable spirit that binds them. This is the unique challenge of Yakutia, a place where the cold is not just a force of nature, but a test of character. It strips you down to the bare essentials, revealing the core of what it means to be a survivor. Survival here is not just about physical strength or clever tools. It is about mental fortitude, about the ability to adapt, to endure, and to find hope in the bleakest of moments. It is about the unbreakable bond between men, the courage to face down impossible odds, and the will to see the sun rise on another day. In the end, it is not the cold that defines them, but their determination to overcome it. They are survivors, forged in the coldest crucible on earth, and they will endure, carrying with them the lessons of the wild, the strength of brotherhood, and the hope that tomorrow will always bring a new dawn. The truck's engine hums in the distance, swallowed by the vast white silence as the men leave behind the ruins of their old life. But in Yakutia, survival is never truly a finish line, only a pause before the next ordeal. Days later, the battered truck returns, headlights sweeping over the snowdrifts to the skeletal remains of the homestead. What once stood as a shield against the wild is now a charred memory, blackened beams jutting from the snow, windows shattered by the cold, the roof collapsed under the weight of ice and battle. Inside the cab, the men sit in silence, eyes lingering on the remnants of their labor. There is no room for despair here. In this land, defeat is not an option. It's simply another challenge to overcome. They step out, boots crunching on the frozen crust, faces stung by the icy wind. With numb hands, they begin the slow, methodical work of reclamation. Each board is pulled from the ashes, inspected, and set aside. Nails are hammered straight, hinges salvaged, and anything that can be reused is carefully gathered. The cold makes every movement deliberate, every breath a plume of frost. There is no blueprint but memory, no architect but necessity. The men work side by side, their routines shaped by years in the wilderness. One cuts timber from a nearby stand of larch, another hauls water from the river, while the rest clear snow and debris. The rhythm of rebuilding becomes its own kind of warmth, a testament to their resilience. They eat together around a small campfire, sharing stories of past winters, of close calls and narrow escapes. The camaraderie is unspoken, forged in hardship and mutual respect, but the challenges are constant. The cold seeps into everything, warping wood, freezing tools, numbing fingers. Supplies run low, and every journey to the nearest settlement is a gamble against the elements. Wolves still prowl at the edge of the forest, their eyes glinting in the twilight, ever watchful. The men remain vigilant, rifles close at hand, always ready for the next test. Even now the land refuses to yield easily. Days bleed into weeks. Slowly walls rise from the snow, rough but sturdy. A new roof takes shape, tarped against the frost. Inside, they insulate with anything at hand. Old blankets, sawdust, moss gathered from the riverbank. Each improvement is a victory, a small defiance against nature's indifference. The homestead is not what it was, but it is theirs, a place reclaimed from the wild, a beacon against the endless winter. At night, the men gather in the half-finished shelter, fire crackling in a makeshift stove. They listen to the wind howl outside, but inside there is warmth, a fragile bubble of civilization in the heart of the Siberian wilderness. They know the road ahead will be hard. The cold is unyielding, the wolves ever present, and the work never truly finished. Yet, as they stare into the flickering flames, they find strength not just in what they have built, but in each other. In Yakutia, survival is not just a story of endurance, but of rebuilding, again and again, no matter how many times the wild tears it down. Each sunrise brings new challenges, but also new hope. For these men, the struggle is never over, but neither is their resolve. This is how you survive on the frozen edge of the world, by refusing to surrender, by rebuilding what is lost, and by standing together, no matter how cold the night. As the men rebuild their fragile sanctuary, they are never truly alone. Beyond the battered fence line, life stirs in the frozen silence, unseen yet ever present. The Siberian wilderness is a realm where every creature, great or small, must master the art of survival. In the blue haze of morning, faint tracks crisscross the snow, evidence of silent travelers. The Arctic hare, ghostly and swift, bounds between drifts, its white fur a perfect cloak against eagle eyes. It nibbles on bark and lichen, forever wary, its ears twitching at the crunch of boots or the distant howl of a wolf. Closer to the riverbank, a pair of sable weaves through the underbrush. Their movements are fluid, almost invisible, as they hunt for voles beneath the snow. Each step is measured, every sense attuned to the faintest vibration. In this land, hunger is a constant companion, and every morsel hard-won. Above, a raven wheels in the pale sky, its call echoing across the tundra. It is both scavenger and sentinel, drawn to the promise of a meal, be it a forgotten scrap or the remains of a wolf's hunt. These birds are survivors, their intelligence honed by endless winters. They watch the men with dark, knowing eyes, ever ready to swoop in when opportunity arises. But it is the wolves who command the greatest respect. Their howls pierce the night, a haunting chorus that carries for miles. Each pack member plays a role. The scouts range ahead, noses low to the ground. The alphas lead, their eyes sharp with experience. They hunt as one, relying on silent signals and perfect timing. Elk and reindeer are their quarry, but the wolves are patient. They can wait for days, trailing the herd, conserving precious energy until the odds tilt in their favor. Sometimes the wolves draw close to the homestead, their shapes flickering in the shadows beyond the firelight. Yet there is a wary truce. The men and the wolves are both survivors, both shaped by the same unforgiving cold. Each recognizes the other's strength and desperation. Even smaller creatures carve out their existence here. The ermine, clad in winter white, darts through tunnels beneath the snow, hunting for mice. The ptarmigan, feathers puffed against the cold, blends seamlessly into the landscape, rising in sudden flurries when startled. Every life is a study in adaptation. Thick fur, keen senses, relentless caution. At night the wilderness comes alive in subtle ways. The snow bears witness fresh tracks, a tuft of fur snagged on a branch, the distant snarl of a fox. The men may build their walls, but the wild is never far away. Each animal, in its own way, is an echo of their struggle, a testament to the will to endure, to adapt, to survive. Here on the edge of the world, life persists not in spite of the cold, but because of it. Every heartbeat, every paw print, every breath in the icy air is a reminder. In Yakutia, survival is a shared story written by man and beast alike across the endless white. In the heart of the Siberian tundra, survival depends not just on grit, but on preparation. As the pale sun inches above the horizon, the men turn their focus to the lifelines that shield them from the relentless cold, their equipment and shelter. Every morning begins with ritual, oiling the hinges of the battered steel door, where frost creeps in with silent persistence. The men work quickly, breath steaming in the frigid air, scraping ice from the lock with a heated blade to prevent it from seizing shut. Inside, attention shifts to the wood stove, the very heart of their refuge. Ashes from the night's fire are carefully shoveled out, making room for fresh birch logs, each one split with practiced efficiency. The axe, its edge honed daily on a whetstone, is as vital as any weapon. Handles are checked for splinters, bindings for cracks. A single failure could invite disaster. The generator, a stubborn beast in the cold, demands coaxing before it will roar to life. Fuel lines are inspected for ice blockages, spark plugs cleaned of soot, oil levels topped up with shaking hands. A single misstep here means hours without light or heat, an unacceptable risk when temperatures plunge to -50. Outside, the men patrol the perimeter. The fence, hammered together from scavenged metal and timber, is examined inch by inch. Weak spots are reinforced with wire and makeshift braces. Snow is cleared from the base to prevent rot, and any sign of intrusion, animal or otherwise, is logged for the evening watch. Their clothing, too, is subject to scrutiny. Furs and parkas are shaken free of ice, seams checked for gaps, boots dried and re-greased by the fire. Even a small tear can become a death sentence if left unattended. Tools are stored with care, saws hung on hooks, blades wrapped against the cold, ropes coiled and kept dry. Each item has its place. Every process is a habit born from necessity. There is no room for carelessness, no margin for error. Throughout the day, this maintenance continues, a ceaseless cycle of vigilance, repair, and preparation. In these harshest of lands, it is the attention to detail, the daily routines, that make the difference between endurance and surrender. Here, every tool, every wall, every stitch in a glove is a testament to the will to survive, standing firm against the endless, frozen night. In the endless white silence of the tundra, survival is more than a battle against the cold. It is a test of the mind and spirit. Each man here arrived with his own story, his own burdens, but as the days blurred into weeks and the howling winds erased all trace of the outside world, they found that isolation can be as fierce an adversary as frostbite. Inside the shelter, camaraderie becomes a shield. Evenings are marked by small rituals, the sharing of boiled tea, the passing of a battered deck of cards, the quiet exchange of stories from lives that now feel impossibly distant. These moments, however brief, are lifelines, reminders that they are not alone in this wilderness. Laughter is rare, but when it comes, it echoes louder than any storm. A joke about a frozen beard, a memory of summer rain, even a shared groan over the stubborn generator. These fragments of normalcy pierce the gloom. In the fire's glow, faces soften, and for a moment the burden of survival lifts. Yet the struggle is not only against the elements. There are nights when the wind seems to whisper doubts, when the mind conjures fears that creep in like the cold. Some men retreat into silence, staring at the dancing flames, wrestling with homesickness or regret. Others talk quietly into the darkness, confessing dreams of warmth, of green fields, of family left behind. In these confessions, bonds are forged, each man's vulnerability becoming another's strength. Coping takes many forms. Some keep journals, scribbling thoughts by candlelight, turning chaos into order with every line. Others build small tokens, carved wood, knotted rope, reminders of skill and purpose. The act of creation, however simple, becomes a rebellion against despair. Trust grows not from grand gestures, but from countless small acts. A hand steadied on an icy ladder, a ration quietly shared, a night spent on watch so another can sleep. In the crucible of hardship, brotherhood is not chosen, it is earned, day by day. Here at the edge of the world, survival is not just the art of enduring the cold. It is the quiet mastery of fear, the courage to hope, and the unspoken promise that no one will face the darkness alone. In the flickering light of the stove, the true fires of survival burn within, fed by memory, by resilience, and by the bonds that hold them together long after the storm has passed. As the midnight sun fades and true darkness falls, the Arctic reveals its most merciless face. Here the night is not merely the absence of light, it is a living force, pressing in from all sides, erasing the horizon, swallowing sound and sense alike. The men brace themselves for what the locals call the long night, when the cold grows sharper and the dangers multiply. Blizzards arrive without warning, rolling in like living walls. Snow and wind merge into a white void, obliterating landmarks and footprints in seconds. Navigation becomes an act of faith, compasses falter near the magnetic pole, and even the stars vanish behind roiling clouds. A wrong step, a moment's disorientation, and the world turns hostile. Shelter becomes invisible, and the cold begins its silent attack. Frostbite is a constant threat, lurking at the edges of sensation. Fingers stiffen, cheeks burn and then go numb, and the tiniest gap in clothing can spell disaster. The men learn to check each other, to spot the telltale waxy pallor that signals danger. Scarves are wrapped tighter, gloves doubled, every inch of skin protected against air that bites deeper than any blade. The night brings another hazard, the mind's confusion. In the endless dark, distances warp and shadows deceive. Familiar shapes become strange, and the howling wind masks the sound of one's own voice. Radio static becomes a lifeline, a crackling tether to the outside world, a reminder that others exist beyond the storm. Inside, vigilance is unbroken. Every man knows the drill. Check the fuel, clear the vents, keep the fire alive. The smallest oversight can invite catastrophe. A blocked chimney, a frozen lock, a forgotten lantern. Survival is a ritual, repeated with reverence and precision. Yet, for all its dangers, the polar night forges a certain clarity. In the heart of the blizzard, priorities sharpen. Each action is deliberate. Every decision weighs heavy. There is no room for error, but also no room for doubt. Only the essentials remain: warmth, shelter, direction, and the unyielding will to see the dawn. Here, at the world's frozen edge, the night is both adversary and teacher. It demands respect, punishes arrogance, and rewards only those who move with caution and purpose. And as the wind howls and the darkness deepens, the men steel themselves for another hour, another night, knowing that survival is not just about enduring the cold, but outwitting the night itself. In the Arctic, hunger and thirst are relentless adversaries, often more insidious than the biting cold. Here, finding food and water is a daily battle waged against the elements, requiring ingenuity, patience, and an intimate knowledge of the land. The men know that snow, despite its abundance, is a last resort for hydration. Eating it raw saps precious body heat, so they gather it meticulously, melting it over a carefully tended flame. Every drop is filtered, boiled, and rationed. Ice, when available, is preferred. The dense blue slabs yield more water and require less fuel to melt. Sometimes they seek out river ice, chipped from beneath the snow, where a trickle of liquid water may still flow, hidden from the freezing air. Food is a harder prize. The barren landscape offers little. The men set snares in the low willows, hoping for the fleeting passage of Arctic hare or ptarmigan. Tracks in the snow are studied with the eye of a hunter, each indentation a possible meal. Traps are checked religiously, baited with scraps, and camouflaged to blend with the drifts. Fishing becomes a lifeline. Armed with hand augers, they bore through meters of ice, lowering lines baited with anything available, bits of fat, a sliver of old meat, a shiny scrap of metal to catch a curious fish's eye. Patience is vital. Hours may pass before the line tugs, yielding a grayling or a burbot, each catch cleaned swiftly, nothing wasted. Even the bones are boiled for broth, every calorie precious. When supplies run low, the men turn to the land itself. Lichens scraped from rocks, edible roots unearthed from beneath the snow, and the rare stash of cloudberries, these are gathered with reverence. Every find is shared among the group, the taste of fresh food a fleeting comfort against the monotony of rations. Foraging is always a gamble. The knowledge of what to eat and what to avoid is passed down, scrawled in notebooks, or committed to memory. Which mosses are safe, which berries are poison, how to spot the telltale signs of a hidden spring. Mistakes are costly, and caution is a constant companion. In the frozen wilderness, the pursuit of food and water is never-ending, a ritual of survival, innovation, and hope. Each mouthful, each sip is a victory, hard-won and deeply savoured. Here, at the world's edge, it is not just the cold that must be outwitted, but the unyielding hunger and thirst that define life in the Arctic night. Long before the hum of engines or the glow of electric light, men have battled the Arctic's merciless cold, forging legends that linger like frost on the tundra. In these endless white expanses, stories of survival are passed from one generation to the next, cautionary tales, hard-won wisdom, and feats that border on the mythical. The earliest hunters travelled on foot, guided only by the stars and the shifting winds. Their tools were carved from bone and stone, their shelters dug into the snow itself. Fire was a sacred gift, tended with reverence, its warmth the only thing standing between life and oblivion. Around the flames, stories grew, of men who followed caribou herds for weeks, subsisting on nothing but foraged bark and the marrow from scavenged bones, of trappers who survived blizzards by building snow caves, breathing slow and shallow to conserve what little warmth they had left. Some legends speak of the ice walkers, men who vanished into whiteout storms, their spirits said to wander the wastes, guiding the lost or leading them astray. Others tell of the silent Brotherhood, groups who could read the land like a map, deciphering the way wind sculpts the snow, the subtle tracks of prey, the telltale shimmer of thin ice. Their knowledge was hard-earned, bought with frostbite and hunger, and shared only in whispers. The history of Arctic survival is written in scars and silence. Names are forgotten, but their deeds endure. The man who fashioned crampons from scavenged wire, crossing a glacier where no one else dared. The trapper who survived a month on boiled leather and melted snow, living to share his tale by a flickering lamp. These stories are not just entertainment, they are instructions, warnings, and reminders of the thin line between life and death. To this day, newcomers to the Arctic are urged to heed these old tales. They are lessons forged in hardship and ice, shaping every decision, when to seek shelter, what to eat, how to listen to the wind's warning. In the end, survival here is not just a test of endurance, but of memory, of honouring the legends etched in ice and carrying them forward into the endless night. As the sun skirts the horizon, casting long blue shadows across the endless tundra, a new threat emerges from the silence, one as ancient as the ice itself. The wolves have returned. Their howls echo through the brittle air, threading between the skeletal trees and abandoned outposts, a chilling reminder that here man is never truly alone. In the depths of the polar night, hunger drives the pack ever closer to human encampments. Their eyes gleam in the darkness, reflecting the glint of distant fires and the hope of a meal. Each step they take is silent, deliberate, a dance as old as time. The struggle for territory is not just a battle for land, but for survival itself. Every footprint in the snow, man or beast, draws invisible lines, marking boundaries that are constantly tested. The men who remain on the tundra know this ancient contest well. Their routines shift with the wolves' arrival. Every trip outside the shelter is a calculated risk. The smallest sound, a crunch of ice, a snap of frozen wood, could draw the attention of a prowling shadow. Barricades are reinforced, tools are kept within arm's reach, and nights are spent listening for the telltale chorus that signals the pack's approach. It is a game of patience and nerves. Sometimes the wolves test the perimeter, circling just out of sight, their breath rising in ghostly plumes. Tracks appear overnight, crisscrossing the drifts around camps and supply caches. The men counter with vigilance, setting traps, lighting extra fires, moving supplies under cover of darkness. Each side adapts, learning from the other, bound together by the relentless need to endure. The wolves are not merely predators, but rivals, symbols of the wild's refusal to yield. They remind every man that here strength is measured not by dominance, but by resilience and cunning. Each encounter leaves its mark, shaping strategies and sharpening instincts. It is a contest with no clear victor, only survivors who carry the scars of each winter. In the Arctic, the return of the wolves is both a warning and a promise that the struggle for safety is never over, and that the balance between man and nature is as fragile as the ice beneath their feet. Decades pass on the tundra, and the Arctic leaves its mark, not just on the land, but deep within those who endure its relentless embrace. The cold seeps into bones, etching fine lines into weathered faces and leaving hands rough and unyielding. But the most profound changes are invisible, hidden beneath layers of wool and silence. Isolation becomes a companion, shaping the mind as much as the wind sculpts the snowdrifts. Men who once feared the endless night grow accustomed to its hush, learning to read the subtle cues that signal a coming storm or the distant prowl of wolves. Their senses sharpen, attuned to the faintest flicker of movement or the softest crunch of ice beneath a boot. Routine is survival. Each day is measured out in small victories, a fire coaxed to life with trembling fingers, a meal scavenged from dwindling stores, a shelter reinforced against the next blizzard. Over time, these acts become ritual, anchors in a world where change is as swift and unforgiving as the northern wind. Yet adaptation is more than habit. It is resilience forged in adversity, a quiet strength that grows with each hardship endured. The mind learns to bend, not break. Loneliness becomes a challenge to be bested, not a foe to be feared. Bonds between men deepen, built on shared struggle and the unspoken understanding that survival here is never guaranteed. Scars, both physical and emotional, are carried as badges of endurance. Fingers numbed by frostbite, eyes narrowed against the glare of sun on snow, memories marked by the loss of comrades and the triumph of another dawn. Each story is a testament to adaptability, a record of lessons learned in the world's harshest classroom. In this frozen expanse, resilience is not a choice, but a necessity. The Arctic demands it, rewarding those who adapt with another sunrise, another breath in the biting air. And as the seasons turn, those who remain find themselves changed, hardened, yes, but also wiser, their veins running with the quiet strength of the ice itself. Here, on the edge of the world, endurance is its own kind of victory,